Hey ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a review for Conan Chop Chop. This game's out on Xbox, PlayStation, Switch and PC, and I was given a chance to play it a bit early, and so I've done a review for it. I have sunk about 12 hours into the game. I didn't actually complete it because the game is very grindy. I've got to say, after 12 hours I was kind of done. Doesn't mean the game's bad, but it's not maybe as good as I hoped it would be. So let's go over what it is. It's a 1 to 4 player co-op game. It's got roguelike elements in it. You'll be going through the world based on the Conan IP with a little bit of influence from their previous game, Funcom's Conan Exiles. This is made by a smaller little studio and it's just published by Funcom, and it's kind of a comedic take on it. I really like the art style. I thought it was pretty fun. It got announced as an April Fool's joke and then they decided to make a game out of it, and it did have some issues. Like, it was meant to have come out and it got delayed a bunch of times, and they actually went really silent, not talking about what the problem was or why it was taking so long to come out. And obviously then COVID hit, and that obviously caused even more problems and delays, I'm sure. So I do recognise that it's a small studio. Overall though, it's meant to be a roguelike game, or roguelike elements to it, and it's just so grindy and not really rewarding of your time. You can choose between 4 characters and they've all got some unique little traits even before you unlock one of their ultimates, which either rain down arrows, cause you to be a tornado, or do an attack with a shield. All 4 characters start with a more unique weapon, but then you can go ahead and chop and change weapons as much as you want when you come across either traders or chests where you'll get new loot. And then you can earn stuff called star metal from killing enemies, and you can use these to go ahead and upgrade and buy weapons. And then you've got the skills. Every time you level up you get a skill point, and you can go and unlock new perks and traits for your ultimate, or give you extra health, or earn more gold at the start of every run. Some of these are unique to each character, and so it's worth maybe going through and finding the right one for you for your playstyle. But that's where the game kind of lets itself down a little bit. There's not as much experimentation that can happen because it's so grindy to level up one character. At least I think it is. It seemed to me to slow down the amount of levels that I got. Even when I was doing well, it seemed to be taking longer to get extra skill points. You can earn skill points with one character and decide to actually just go ahead and upgrade another. So if you think you're OP with one but you want to see what the others are like, you can experiment that way. But eventually you're going to be locked into one character because you're doing well with that one, because you've unlocked new skills. It's making it easier to progress. But then to get new skill points for the other characters, it's going to take twice as long as it did your original one. I don't know, that's how it felt anyway. Maybe it's not, maybe they haven't actually extended or took how long it takes to get each level, but I definitely felt like there was some slowdown. And in a roguelike, that's a big problem. Like, the beauty of a roguelike is that you go through some punishing first hours and then eventually you start unlocking new stuff that makes life a bit easier. And Conan Chop Chop is the same. You will get new items, but the way that they do it and the way that they give you the choice to start off with is kind of rubbish. You basically unlock new weapons and tools, and then they've got a random chance of appearing in these stalls. You buy these items with your star metal that you get from enemy drops. And if you do buy one from Blacksmith, you can actually take it out on that run, or you can go ahead and buy some of the ones that are on these stalls with gold. The ones in the stalls will randomly generate, so they might be different every time, and the ones in the actual Blacksmith, you're guaranteed to get that weapon, but if you want to start getting bigger and better weapons, you need to have bought every single one. So I can't get any of the blacked out weapons here that say they cost 45 star metal until I've bought all the other weapons and stuff that cost 15. And they get more and more expensive. You get charms, shields and armor that all give you different buffs and abilities, but you're going to be spending thousands of star metal to really achieve maybe a little bit of versatility in how you can customize and create a build. Charms are one of the OP things, and definitely as you progress you will start noticing more and more charms that give you some really cool abilities. And I'm guessing some of the weapons will get to that point as well. But it's such a grind, and the fact that you can't even choose your starting loadout. I would like it if they added the ability to be able to buy anything you want, but still maybe just reduce it a little bit so you're not too OP by giving you a small gold amount. Basically everything you've unlocked give you the option to go ahead and buy one of them tools or weapons, but give you a small amount so that you can't really go too mad and get the best gear for every single run. It still allows for a bit of versatility, a bit of experimentation, trying stuff you haven't seen before, instead of just relying on RNG, what appears really in the stalls. Game doesn't do a very good job of explaining the system here either. It doesn't tell you that you need to buy all of them to unlock the rest. Also doesn't tell you that if you do go ahead and save up your star metal and buy a bunch of weapons in one go, then it'll all appear in front of the fountain and you only get to take one with you on that run. This is where I felt like it would be better if it was a choice and you could literally put some in a bank and decide to choose it on the next run. I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to roguelike games. I really enjoyed The Binding of Isaac and Rogue Legacy, and that's about my limit. Children of Malta was pretty fun, and then I kind of veer into RPG territory usually with games like Torchlight. But I do know at certain points you get to a point where the game becomes a bit easier and you get a bit more choice in what you can do. Now Conan Chop Chop does get easier, you will unlock stuff and each run will end up getting a bit longer and a bit bigger. But yeah, a small change, having the ability to buy whatever you want once you've unlocked it, I think that would go a long way. Each run starts you at the very beginning where you have to go through Numidia, then the Dark Forest, to eventually finding Fac's temple before taking on Fac, the gorilla boss. Each run will be different because the tiles change, so each area that you enter will be randomly generated and you'll get a different tile with different enemies. Another problem is there's no shortcuts whatsoever. If you do maybe get really experienced with the game, you have to go through every single one of the biomes in exactly the same order before you get to maybe the later stages. So you'll go through exactly the same areas, fighting exactly the same bosses in the same order. Obviously every run will change because you'll get different types of loot that you'll find either at traders or in chests, and of course the starting gear that is randomly generated. But it still really gets monotonous really quickly, and that's why I couldn't carry on anymore. I'd done 12 hours and I was like, nope, I do not want to have to restart and go through the same 3 areas over and over again. In the past, games like Binding of Isaac have really changed and mixed up the starting areas and the tiles or the procedural generation of the dungeons and caves. Conan Chop Chop's got some nice art and there are definitely some nice variety in the enemies in the beginning stages, but you quickly start to realise that a lot of the other enemies are kind of just more harder versions. They've got a little bit more health, they do a bit more damage, they've only got a slight variation. You do come across some mini bosses and again it's randomly generated, and there's the weird little quest where you pick up an item and then swap it for another item in the next biome and next biome, etc. But I did feel like there just weren't enough secrets in the game. There wasn't enough kind of like do this and you might find something a bit later, or just some shortcuts, just something extra. I did like the combat, the moment to moment using your arrows or your bow and having a timer on it so it runs out, so you have to mix it up, your dash attack and then your shield, and choosing what moment will go with what, and the combinations that you can get. So you'll get certain charms that give you poison damage, and then you'll get a piece of armor that gives you extra 30% poison damage. When you come across a combination like that, it's fantastic. It really gives you that sense of like, oh my god, this is the one, I'm going to go through the whole game now because I've finally found something that really works. Trouble is, in 12 hours and about 25 runs, I only really come across that maybe 3 times. 2 of them times were to do with poison, and the 3rd time was to do with melee giving me lots of rage so that I could activate my ultimate ability. 3 out of 25 times that I felt like I was onto something really good. I don't think that's a particularly great amount. Good roguelikes will be tough to beat, they will be challenging and you are going to get frustrated that you're going to have to restart over and over again. But good roguelikes also make sure that there's versatility and that the world you're exploring is random enough that you don't maybe notice the repetition as much. Or it gives you the choices and the ability to customise the experience more, and that's just something that Conan Chop Chop doesn't do very well. It's got some great tiles, it's got some great enemies, and it has got some great bosses, even if they all end up doing kind of more or less the same stuff. And it sells itself as saying it's got millions of combinations that you can have, but so much of that is locked behind just tedious grind, and not the good kind. I don't want to be overly harsh, the game can be a bunch of fun. If you're playing with your friends and you do this regular, you pick up multiplayer games together and you really hammer them, then yeah, if you've got 20 bucks, 4 of your pals, you'll have fun for sure. But if you are a real kind of roguelike player, I think you'll be disappointed in this game, just not having enough variety. Or certainly just not being worth investing that much time before you unlock the good stuff. Feels like a lot of the content has kind of been elongated or gated or made necessarily tediously repeating because they just didn't have as much to put into it. And like I said, I do recognise they're a small studio, so they're maybe going to have the big open world or procedurally generated kind of stuff that other games might. So really not a question of the price of the game, but more the investment and what you'll get out of it. I just don't really see CONAN CHOP CHOP being a long-term thing that you'll go back to time again. I'm not sure if you defeat the final boss, you unlock like a plus mode or a time challenge mode or something. If not, the game could definitely do some of that stuff to really give at least a chance of maybe roguelike players enjoying it more. But for me, once I got my character fully upgraded almost, or unlocked the choices that I could see, I was done. I didn't care if I didn't even make it to the final boss or see what happened after the snow biome. I just couldn't go through the same stages. It needs some sort of shortcut system. It needs something that you can earn or achieve or get, so you can skip maybe a boss or do them in random order. Maybe get extra rewards for doing them slightly out of sync and going for maybe the harder desert biome first. I mained mostly as Valeria and I had a good time, and then I spent a bit of time with Palantis as well, and yeah, they definitely had some kind of different vibes, but maybe didn't lean enough into them being more different. Would have been cool to see actual weapons only being able to be used by certain classes. That might have made the grind something really worth working towards, to see what it'd be like if you could get a special weapon for each one. Technically, there weren't too many issues, although I was a bit disappointed that some of the audio sounded like it has been recorded through a 2002 phone. Mainly the cutscenes at the very beginning, but that just felt a bit off. And there was a problem actually with the controller. It's meant to be almost like a twin stick shooter. You can use a square button on the controller to attack, or a X button if you're on an Xbox, or you can use the right stick to use the same button to attack. And when you're firing your arrows, you have to actually use the right stick to aim in the direction while holding your left L2 button, and it basically didn't aim in the right direction. I would literally be holding the right stick in like a completely up direction just to make it go a bit sideways, so it definitely felt like there was a bug there or problem with it, but it did hinder quite a bit of the enjoyment of using the bow and arrow, where just so many of my shots weren't actually hitting. Like I said, I don't want to be too harsh, maybe my expectations are too much, I guess, but yeah, that's what I felt like with CONAN CHOP CHOP. I really want to give it a go. I plan to make a whole bunch of guides and tutorials on it for my second channel, JCraft, but in the end, it's just not really generating that much hype. I'm not seeing too many talk about it. They've released it at a pretty poor time with so many other games, big games out, that people just aren't going to be that interested. And I do wonder how much interest there is in the CONAN IP when it's presented in this way. Like, kids, are they going to be picking this up because they like CONAN that much? No, probably not. Are big fans of the CONAN IP, the movies, or even CONAN Exiles game going to be picking this up? Probably not, because it's just too cartoony for them. So yeah, I do wonder who this game really services. If it goes to Games Pass or PS Now or something like that, absolutely give it a whirl. And I think if it had started life on one of them services, we would have seen a real good feel factor about it. Maybe they could have sold some DLC to go along afterwards. The last note of caution is that you can join randoms. You can start a world and have others play. But I feel like because there's not that much interest in it, the servers will kind of be dead in a few months. Although I really appreciate the fact it's got proper couch co-ops, it's got split screens, so if you're playing with your family or friends or loved ones and stuff, then yeah, you'll definitely get a bit more enjoyment playing next to each other, and that's got a good vibe, that old school feel. You might have a bunch of fun with this playing it on the Switch, on the go, just something mindless to take the edge off stuff. But yeah, I feel like it could have just had a few tweaks and it could have been something even more than it is. Maybe it'll add that, maybe it'll add some more options to it, maybe some stuff I've suggested. If they have, I'll do another review and I'll cover it again. But yeah, that's what I think about CONAN CHOP CHOP. Agree? Disagree? Let me know what you think about the game. Are you loving it? Are you not loving it? Let me know. And until next time, Ratbags, I'll catch you later.